Hello, everyone, and welcome to the inaugural parent Zoom call for the incoming students of our class that's coming in this September. While we get started, before we get started, I want to cover a couple of housekeeping items for everybody. Please note that everyone is muted because this is a webinar. The chat and your cameras and speakers are disabled. If you have any questions, please reach out to us through the Q&A. I have several colleagues who are watching the Q&A throughout my presentation and will be answering questions as they can. And then I'll also have time at the end of my presentations for questions for you. My presentation will be available on the NSFP website early next week. Could be sooner, but let's say early next week. And you were sent documents as part of the invite. And these are all important documents for the Bursar's office. Those will also be posted to the website. So you have multiple ways of accessing both this video and those very important documents. They're informational documents, but they're great things to have. So let's get going. So this is a presentation regarding student financial services. I'm Janet Burkhart. I'm the Director of Student Financial Services. I've been at DU a long time, been here almost, well, over 30 years, and I was a student here. So it's a great place to be, and I welcome you and your students to the community. We're delighted you've chosen the University of Denver, and we're here to make it a great experience. Okay, so student financial services, who are we and what does that mean? So the student financial services has several components. We have the Bursar's office, which is in charge of billing, offers payment plans, and if your student needs to get a refund check because of an overage of financial aid or they drop a class, those refunds are processed by the Bursar's office. We also have the Pioneer ID card office, and getting a Pioneer card is especially important this year because right now the COVID coordinator has told us we'll all be badging into our buildings come fall. Now, you don't have to worry about, oh my gosh, how am I going to get one of these cards when I come to campus? We have a process that your students can submit cards, photos over the summer and get their cards printed, and then they're available at the time that they move in. There's also a college bus pass that the ID card office prints and distributes to students, and that lets your students ride the buses and the light rail around Denver at no cost. So it's a really great service to help your students explore Denver. And then we also do have the cashier's office. We've been very lonely this last year, but when things open up, we love to see you for in-person payments. So sometimes there's some confusion between what Student Financial Services does and what the Office of Financial Aid does. And I like to tell people that the Office of Financial Aid gives money, and the Student Financial Services Office takes it away. So, I mean, you know, I can't see you all, so I don't know how my jokes are going over. So let's hope someone finds that amusing. Okay, this is really important. What I'm coming to you today for is to give you all the things that can be done during the summer before you get onto campus that will give you and your students some ease of mind. So the first thing to do is set up DU Pay. So DU Pay is the place to view and pay bills on campus for the University of Denver. You can also look at the student's account via DU Pay and view 1098 tax forms at the end of every tax year. Now, because this is college and we're under the FERPA regulations and we can't just give anyone besides the student access to account information, your students will have to sign you up as an authorized user. It's very simple process. So your students log on to DU Pay. All they need from you is your email. And once they set you up as an authorized user, you in that email will receive 2 emails. You'll receive a username and you will receive one saying you've been set up, and then give you the link to set up your password. Now, the nice thing about this is that each and every login is unique. So the students log on with their credentials, you log on with your credentials. And so everything is kept separately. When we do post new bills, your students and any authorized users that they set up will receive notification that a new bill has been posted. And you can store payment methods so that once you set up a checking account, you never have to go in and enter that information again. And that's where the benefit of those separate credentials comes into effect, because I never wanted my kids to have my checking account information so they could do an Amazon binge. So may not be a concern in your household, but if you like to keep your finances separate from your students, then it is available because you have your own separate credentials. Let's see, students access Do You Pay via Pioneer Web, and it's very evident on the student tab. Authorized users access it via our website, du.edu/Bursar, and we have a very prominent link that says make a payment. And fall bills will be posted August 1st and are due on August 22nd. It's really important to note that DU does not accept credit card payments for tuition. So DU Pay only accepts electronic ACH payments. While you're there, you can set up a payment plan, and there is information in your packet about payment plans. It gives you the ability to spread out your payments for any given term over 3 installments, and it costs $20 a term to set that up. So it's really nice. And just like every other bill, you'll get notice when a payment is due, and you can also schedule payments. So if you just want to say, okay, I want to schedule these payments for the rest of the term, then you have the ability to do that. So you can also mail checks to our mailing address. I know a lot of times if you're pulling out funds from a 529, those are actual physical checks that the companies will send to DU. Certainly acceptable. We have staff in the office all the time processing those. The only thing that I would ask is that when you request payment from the 529 plans, to make sure that you ask your 529 administrators to include the student's account, because as long as we have a student account number, they're what we fondly refer to at DU as their 87 number, then we'll be able to post that payment more quickly than if we have to figure out which John Smith that this payment needs to go on to. You can also send wires. Wire information is available on our website. And again, everything I discussed tonight can be found at our website, which is du.edu/Bursar. Okay, some other things you need to do before you come onto campus. You need to make sure that, let me see if I skipped. Sorry, I skipped. You would think after 15 months I'd get this Zoom thing figured out, but I still haven't. So I mentioned this before, that we're all going to need to badge into all of our buildings come fall. So what you need to do is help your students choose an ID photo and upload those to the Pioneer ID card site. We ask that for the photos, there's no hats, there's no sunglasses, you know, a smile. They don't have to be as rigid as a passport photo, but we would just ask that they are appropriate because their professors will see these photos. And I would strongly suggest they don't submit a group photo, because we don't know which of these 6 peoples in the photos are your students. So just an individual picture, we can crop for something else. We get a tremendous amount of senior pictures. That's fine, but they can upload it. The DU card is used for residence hall access as well as access to all the other campus buildings. Your students will have meal plans, and all they need to do is have their ID card, and they'll be able to swipe and pay for their meals with their ID card. Gym access is done through the ID card, and there's attached to your meal plan. So meal plans like have a meal. This is what you get for breakfast. This is what you get for lunch. But there's also a concept of meal plan cash, so that the students, if they're running around campus and they say, oh, I need to get a Starbucks, they can run into Starbucks and they can pay for it with meal plan cash. So it's a nice little convenient way to get spending money. And I was going to show you my ID. This is the nice thing about Zoom. So now you've seen me. The ID card can also be linked to a US bank. We do have a US bank branch on campus. And once the ID cards are linked to a US bank account, then they can be used as a PIN-based debit card. And again, this one, if you want more information about the DU ID cards, you can visit du.edu/pioneer card. All right, now we're going to go on to number 3. The other thing to determine if your student is covered by your health insurance plan. DU, as a matter of policy, charges every student on campus health insurance as part of their registration process. If your student is covered, all you need to do is have your student waive the health insurance. It's a very simple process. They can do it via Pioneer Web, and as long as they have their health insurance card information in front of them, it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. It needs to be waived for fall quarter by October 1st, or your student will be enrolled in the DU plan and you will be paying the premium. So something definitely you want to get done during the summer. And if you want to accept the DU insurance, you just go on and say accept. And again, it could be waived or accepted via Pioneer Web. The students are also charged a student health fee. Undergraduates do not have the option to waive that health fee. So just an important note there. Okay, what's next? New for the academic year 21-22. The University of Denver has partnered with GradGuard to provide tuition insurance to our families. It is a completely optional program, but when you're on DU Pay, you will be presented with the option to purchase tuition insurance, much like you would be presented with travel insurance option when you were making a plane reservation. So again, coverage is voluntary. It's available for purchase via DU Pay. Coverage must be purchased by the first day of the term. And so it's available for every term. It's $106 for $10,000 in coverage. And I've put a link to the GradGuard site in the presentation. So if you'd like to get more information, it's certainly available at that site. So just something to think about, completely voluntary. So let's see what else. I don't have a slide for it, but a couple of things I'd like to mention is that, especially for those of you who this is your first student and you're sending to college, it's a little bit of a shift when you come into the post-secondary education world. You don't have access to any of your students' records. Well, your student must execute a FERPA release in order for anyone at the University of Denver to discuss any details with you. So, and that's the first thing every office checks on campus. If there's a FERPA release, it's something the students can execute on Pioneer Web. But if you would like your students to give you access, that's a conversation you need to have with them this summer. I can tell you when my kids went to school, I said, well, if you want me to pay, then you're going to let me see that account. So, and it is different than a DU Pay authorized user. It enables us, if you have questions about something on DU Pay, if you also have a FERPA release, then we can give you more in-depth answers. If you don't have a FERPA release, we're happy to talk about your team's athletic, your city's athletic teams. I will talk to you about Rockies baseball, the weather in Colorado, but it's just something that we need in order to give you detailed account information, or actually any student information for your student once they get here to DU. Please encourage your students to check their DU email throughout the summer. Many administrative offices, Student Financial Services, Office of Financial Aid, Office of the Registrar's Office sends a lot of correspondence to your students during the summer via email, and they may not be used to reading their email regularly, but it's really important that they log on to their DU email. I would say once a week is enough. I often tell students when they get here on campus, when you're folding your laundry, if you're folding your laundry on Sundays or whenever you're doing it, that would be a great time to say, oh, I need to read my emails. So hoping you can encourage them over the summer to read their DU email regularly. Okay, so just important information about our staff. We are available even right now throughout, while the university isn't officially open. We are available by phone, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. Staff is always available to help. Our main number is 303-871-4494. You can also send email to bursar@du.edu. The mailbox is monitored and the staff responds within 24 hours. So that's another way. You know, if you think of a question at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m., go ahead and send us an email and we'll give you an answer the next day. We post regular announcements to du.edu/Bursar, and we also put important announcements on the DU Parents and Family Facebook page. So there's multiple ways that you can get information about us. So what I really encourage you to do is reach out, because we're here to help. We want to help you understand what the process is. We want to help your students understand what the process is and how important deadlines are. So please don't ever hesitate to call us, email us, reach out, and get your questions answered. I'd rather have you call us than assume, an answer and have it be wrong, and then you get a late fee or something like that. So please use us as much as you need. There we go. Short and simple. So now I'm ready for questions. Wow, we already have 23. Woo, I'm nervous. So how do you know if you filled out FERPA? Your students should be able to see on their Pioneer web, and it's something that the student needs to get onto Pioneer web and do. We're all talking to the students these days. Let's see. There's some questions about financial aid. I would encourage you, if you have any questions about financial aid, to contact their office directly. I could look up I think their extension is 4020, but I would check the directory for that. Is tuition in full due on August 22nd? Yes, it is. So, and what we will do is, when the bill is sent to you, if you have any financial aid, we will show that to you on the bill, and you will see the net amount that needs to be paid. So you'll see the tuition, the fees, any financial aid, and then again, the net of that. The only way it wouldn't be due in full on August 22nd is if you signed up for a payment plan, and then you have the option to string out those payments for 3 months. Let's see. Yes, there can be more than one authorized user on DU Pay. And again, everybody has their own credentials. So mom and dad want separate logins, completely fine. Are the payments for tuition, room, and board? Yes. You will see on your student's tuition bill, you'll see tuition, you'll see any tech fees, any lab fees they might have incurred because of their registration. You'll see the health insurance, if you don't waive it by August 1st. We figure if you waive it by August 1st, you don't want to see that in and out, and it won't be there. So you'll know immediately if that health insurance hasn't been waived. Room and board will be there. If you haven't paid for parking via credit card and you've just signed up for parking via the parking office, parking charges come through on the bill. And then again, you'll see all of the financial aid on the bill too. So whether it's loans, grants, scholarships, whatever your student has been awarded and is accepted will be on their bill. All right. Is the term considered a quarter or the entire year? I'm sorry, a term is for just one quarter. Because we have semesters and quarters, I try and use the catch-all term, but for your students, it'll be quarters until they become law students, and then we'll talk semesters. What if you already have one DU PIO and a DU Pay account? You can have, all of the accounts are based on the student's number and the student's identification. So you can be an authorized user on multiple accounts, but you can't, you would have to sign on to each of those to get their information, just because of the way information is segregated at the university. Um, when will all of these actions be communicated to the students? I know I'm working with the Discoveries team to have all of the communications and all the flyers that you've gotten posted to campus groups so that they can have the information. We will also have all those documents available for viewing on the Pioneer on the Bursar's website. So you can always encourage your students to see to go to the Bursar website, and we're available for questions and comments. What is the premium for health insurance? It's $106 for every $10,000 of coverage. The health fee covers the students when they go to the student health clinic. It gives them the ability to visit the clinic and get tests at a reduced rate. And I would say for questions about the health fee, more specifically, Student Health Services does have their own website, and I would encourage you to check that website for really detailed information. Okay. If you have access to your student's account when you log in, you don't see any payment options. We haven't generated the bills yet, so there's nothing for you to view there. The bills will be generated on August 1st, and that's when you'll be able to see all the charges. And then once we have that initial set of charges, you can always go back and look at previous terms. So you'll see fall starting August 1st, and that'll be available to you all fall quarter. And then winter quarter gets charged on December 1st. So that's when you'll see your winter quarter charges, but you'll still have access to your fall quarter charges. It just builds like that throughout your student's academic career. What does insurance cover and why should you get it? Again, it's totally optional, but if a student happens to be ill or get injured while they're at school and they have to leave midway or partway through a term, then the insurance will cover that portion of tuition that's not refunded to you. And GradGuard also has student assistance. So if somebody, that's not me, if somebody needs to get home immediately, then there's some student assistance funding available. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Where did they go to do the FERPA release? Pioneer Web, student tab. How does scholarship funding get applied to the bill? We will disperse, the university does all that for you. Any of the loans, scholarships, or grants that your student has accepted, the system will automatically move, we call it disperse. It will disperse from the financial aid system into the billing system, and it will be available for viewing on your student's account. And then it credits whatever charges are there on your student's account. The only type of financial aid you won't see on your student's account is work study. Work study encourages students to get a job on campus, and once they do get a job, they have to go. It gets them prepared to. Oh, it's showing a random web browser. Sorry about that, friends. It helps them with the interviewing process, and then once they do get a job on campus, then they get their work study information. They get their work study funds through paychecks, biweekly paychecks. Can you say exactly where on Pioneer it is? Since we're not sharing, yes, I'll go into Pioneer Web and I'll navigate there really quickly and tell you. So it's on the student tab, and it is in records. It's on the right-hand side under the student information box. And there's a little, it looks almost like a briefcase or a file folder that says records and releases. And it says release of student records. Okay, let's talk about payments. Can we pay in full or by semester? We can estimate your charges to pay in full and then square up at the end of the year. That's not a problem. It's generally pretty easy for us to estimate the yearly charges for undergrads because they're taking between 12 and 18 hours, and we know what the cost of that is. The only thing that might vary is if they register for a lab course that we weren't anticipating a lab fee for. But yes, you can certainly pay in advance for 1 year or all 4 years. Just go ahead and call the Bursar's office and we can get that set up for you. If you have family members who are contributing via 529, all they have to do is request to send the funds how much they want to the University of Denver. And again, to ask the 529 administrator to put the student's ID number on that. And let's, that's all we need. There's some Parent Plus loan questions for specific informations about amounts in the process. Again, I would encourage you to contact financial aid. But if you apply for a plus loan, once you get your bill, we know that, and we worked really, really carefully and closely with financial aid. So if we know a plus loan is in the process, we can indicate that on your student's account and there won't be any late fees. So, you know, it's just if we can see that it's in process, we understand that it's the government's money and the government takes time. And we'll just work with you in financial aid until that plus loan gets onto your student's account. So don't worry if, you know, it's something you start doing the first week of August. Well, we've got it covered. The billing agreement, when is the billing agreement due? Before they register for their courses. So that would be prior to, I'm looking at my calendar now on my wall here, that would be prior to July 17th, 19th. If your student won't be 18 by July 19th, then you have to sign on their behalf because they legally can't execute a contract. So those forms are available on the Bursar website. You can sign them and send them to the office. You can fax them. You can attach it to an email. You can, that's about, yeah, fax it, attach it to an email and get it sent to us. Or you can even mail it if you have some time, if you know they're, I mean, you know they won't be 18 by the 19th of July. If you want to sign that now and pop it in the mail, then we'll take care of it. And if that hasn't been executed, there will be a registration hold on your student's account. So I would encourage you all, if your students won't be 18 by the time they register, to get those billing agreements signed, submitted, so we can get those taken care of. And then once your students turn 18, they'll get another hold on their account, because then we're going to ask them to sign the agreement as themselves as legal adults. Okay. So yes, that if you choose the two payment plan, then it's due on September 1st. We would prefer you do the 3 payment plan if your student is registered and you get that bill on August 1st. That 2 payment plan is generally reserved for students who don't register by the August 1st billing deadline, and we don't want them to be completely shut out of the payment plans. Merit scholarships, those are part of the statement. Any type of scholarship, whether you're getting it from the Elks Club, you're getting it from the University of Denver, whatever is on your student's financial aid award and that's been accepted, will flow through the financial aid system to the student accounting system, and you will see that on your student's account and on the student bill. We do all that work for you. Your student doesn't have to request it. And let's say that your student is getting a small amount of federal loans and they actually have a refund available based on those loans, your student doesn't have to request that refund either. Our systems are very good. We do a nightly process that says, is there any student who's eligible for a refund? If they are, we send those transactions off to our accounts payables colleagues, and your student doesn't have to request it. So we try and make this as seamless and easy as possible for your students. I would suggest, there's another thing, they're going to be spending a lot of time on Pioneer Web after this conversation we're having. They can set up a direct deposit for their refund checks, and I would suggest that they do that because we have found that students move a lot during their college years, and we don't want checks to be following them around to all their different addresses. And if the students get their checks via direct deposit, the money gets there a little bit quicker. So all they need is their routing number and their account number, and you can set it up very quickly. So there's that. When is the deadline to withdraw without penalty? 100% drop period, you get 100% refund. During the first week of courses, during the second week of courses, it goes down to 70%. Third week of courses, it's 50%. After the end of the third week of courses, it's a 0% tuition refund. And you can find all of those dates and deadlines on the registrar's webpage at du.edu. Is the student's account number same as the ID? Yes, I'm sorry, I use those interchangeably, but yes, the ID and the student account number are the same. Merit scholarship, again, any specific questions about financial aid, I would definitely check with financial aid. And yes, scholarships are applied to the amount due. You can sign up for payment plans once the bills are generated at DU Pay. It's a very simple process to go through. You just sign up and the system will calculate, again, like I said, the bill will show, will consider all the scholarships and grants and if there are any loans, it will consider all those amounts and then calculate the remaining amount. And the system will spread that out over the 3 payments for you. So it's a very simple process. You don't have to get out your, if you're old fashioned like me, your pen and paper, say I have them everywhere. The system will help you figure that out. Yes, scholarships, grants, loans will automatically be posted to the bill prior to the time that we send them out. The only exception is that if your student is not registered for at least 12 hours. Most merit scholarships require full-time registration, which at the university is 12 to 18 hours. So if your student isn't registered for at least those 12 hours by August 1st, you won't see the scholarships on the initial bill. But once they do get registered for full-time, a nightly process will pass those funds over to the student account. So if you know your student is trying to shuffle around their schedule and they're going to register for 13 hours, if you get the bill and it says it's 10,000, but you know you're getting a $5,000 scholarship, you can go ahead and pay that 5,000 because you know the scholarship is coming and it will be reflected in our system. So financial aid, always go. And I'm saying financial aid because our financial aid office does everything, scholarships, grants, loans. So it's just kind of a lump term for all of that type of funding. You only have the option to pay over 3 months for each quarter. And the reason for that is that by the time that last payment comes in, it'll be time for priority registration for the next quarter, and accounts have to be paid in full before a student will be allowed to register for any future quarters. So you can't extend 4 or 5 months. Yes, the learning effectiveness program is on the bill with the tuition. So I'm sorry I didn't mention that. So how far in advance of the due date is the net amount due? It will be available you will be able to see it by August 1st. Well, let me see. Nope, I lied, August 2nd. August 1st is a Sunday and I don't make my staff come in and work on Sundays. Let me see, somebody's asking about when they'll be able to waive the health insurance. I will tell you that in just a second. You have to listen to me type and try and navigate my system while I'm talking to you. Should be available now. Let me have my tech people take a look at that, okay? And then once I know it's available, I will have Sharon send out an email to everybody. So let me check with my IT team. If a student is covered by our health insurance, can they still get the health coverage? Well, they shouldn't be double coverage, but we will charge you. So it's really, really important for your student to waive that health insurance. And we send almost weekly reminders. So your students, if you reminding them isn't enough, we start reminding them too. So hopefully between all of our efforts, they'll remember to do that. The other thing, and this is just a parent thing while we're talking about health insurance, I would suggest that either you send your student with a copy of your insurance card if they're going to be covered by your provider, or at least with a photo of it so they have that information. Just handy veteran parent tip. Um, as an admitted student, they don't have early access to the gym. They won't have access until they're registered. There's a question about how late you can apply for a PLUS loan. Again, that's a financial aid question. I don't think it has to be done by day one, but don't quote me on their processes. If you do take the health insurance and your student happens to be home and gets injured, they'll be covered when they're outside of Colorado. Payment plans, we went over, that's all through DU Pay. There's a question about what type of release you'll need to talk to the health clinic. Because it is health records, you'll need a HIPAA release. FERPA doesn't cover health records. It only covers institutional records. And again, I would check the student health website to find out how to their preferred way of executing a HIPAA waiver. The $106 fee is, yes, for the tuition insurance, and that never appears on, because it's optional. And if you decide to do that, you pay the insurance company directly. DU doesn't have, we won't look at your claims. We don't have any decision-making power in the claims. We're just presenting you the option as a convenient way to think about the coverage and then purchase it if you'd like to. Okay. What forms of payment are most common for students to need and purchase on or off campus? You know, all around DU, I've seen Apple Pay, credit cards, debit cards. The ID card has kind of like a declining balance account that's separate from meal plan cash that the students can have. They can put $50 on it. I always have $50 on my card. And most of the restaurants around campus will accept those funds. So a lot of times if they run out the door and all they have is their ID, they can go to the local bagel shop and get a bagel. They can go to Illegal Pete's down the street, which is Mexican. The original Chipotle is 4 blocks from campus. So, but I would say if you're comfortable sending them with a debit card, that's probably a good bet. And like I said, Apple Pay always works. What is the insurance premium? Hang on. It is $1,725 for a 6-month coverage period. So your first coverage period is from September through February. So it's covers 6 months. So basically all of fall and winter quarter are covered in the first 6 months, and then spring and summer are covered in the second. The health fee is $200. Okay, back to the questions. I'm going, you all have gotten going through so many different screens. If you have more than one student, you do have to be signed up as an authorized user for each student. And it's because DU Pay goes by student. So if your one student's number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's what that one student's ID number is. If your second student will have a separate ID number, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1, then that's a separate account. So yes, you do need to be authorized users on the 2 separate accounts. There's no way for us to join them. You sign up for tuition insurance. Once the bills are generated, you can access that via DU Pay. The dates for bill generation, the important dates flyer was part of the email you received announcing this webinar. It will also be on the NSFP. They gave me the note for that for the website, and we'll also have those dates on the Bursar's page. So variety of places to get those. You don't need to sign up for a payment plan prior to August 1st because we don't have your students' charges, so you can't. So really, you got until August 1st to kind of look at the whole billing thing. All the payment plan is through DU Pay. The DU ID card, if it is linked to a US bank account, can be used as a debit card for off-campus purchases. Yes, it can. LEP charges do get charged. We charge the LEP sends us their charges, which is the Learning Effectiveness Program. We put it on the student account. It's part of your bill, and then we collect the funds for them. So you don't have to be paying separate departments for all kinds of different fees. It's all centrally billed. There's a question if you have to qualify for federal aid in order to do work study. In order to have a work study position and get paid with those specific funds, you do need to be a financial aid recipient, but there's plenty of on-campus jobs that don't require work study awards. If your student is a lifeguard, they've got it made in the shade. We're always looking for lifeguards. If your student has been awarded work study, you'll get that through the financial aid. Okay. Oh, there was a question about how credit hours are billed, and that's an important one. So DU between 1 and 12 credit hours, you will get charged for each and every one of those credit hours. Once your student registers between 12 and 18 hours, then they fall into what we call the flat rate. So any amount of credit hours between 12 and 18 credit hours is billed at the flat rate, which is the 12-hour credit hour total. I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, you can call the office tomorrow, but the flat rate, anything between 12 and 18 is the same price. There's some questions about non-DU scholarships. Definitely contact the financial aid. What is a billing agreement? So what we do is we ask the students, it's basically a terms and conditions for the student account. So it lays out all of their responsibilities that they have to drop within the drop deadlines, that they have to read their DU email. There's some requirements in there, and then they sign and they realize that they have to pay the bill, and then they have to sign that agreement. It's done once a year, and the students do sign it via Pioneer Web, and they can always go back and look at the language. And if you want to look at the language, it's available on our part of our forms section of the Bursar webpage. For 529 purposes, yes, I apologize. The student account number is the same thing as the ID number. We do not take credit cards. The University of Denver does not accept credit cards for tuition payments. If you'd like to link your student's DU ID card to US Bank, you can do that when you're here as part of orientation. It's just a simple process of them going to the bank, which is one floor above the Pioneer ID card office, and saying, I want to link my account. There's a little bit of paperwork that has to go between the ID office and US Bank, and then it's done automatically. So, and it's just like a normal checking account for the students. So the tuition posted on August 1st is just for one quarter. We bill by the quarter. It's not for the entire year. So what you can basically do is say, oh, this is my bill for fall quarter. And multiply it by 3, and that will be your charges for the year. Same thing with financial aid. If your student has a scholarship for $12,000, they will not get that full $12,000 in fall quarter. They will get $4,000 because it's divided into thirds. So that's important to know too. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read the questions and go through this. Yes, if you go to the health center, if you keep your own insurance, the students still have access to the health clinic. Okay. Let's see, there's some questions about the health fee. The health fee covers visits to the on-campus clinic, and there's reduced lab fees with the student health insurance, and no, it's not optional. Undergraduate students must take the health fee. The health insurance is optional, but the health fee isn't covered. For detailed answers about the health fee, we'll get the student health website up so that you can visit that directly. So for parents to access DU Pay, you want to go to the du.edu/Bursar page and look for important links. And we've given everyone a big clue. There's a big green $sign. You just click on that and it gets you to DU Pay. Let's see. The DU ID card for now is a physical card. There it is. Where sooner or later we'll go to mobile credentials, but right now they're physical cards. There is a bank on campus. US Bank is our bank on campus. Again, the students aren't obligated to link their cards. And if you have a bank, if you use Chase, there's a Chase branch right down the street from campus. So banking are completely, they're all family decisions you get to make. Let's see. And then again, student health insurance questions, I would send you to my colleagues in student health services. Okay, I think I've gotten through all those. Sharon, who is really the host of these wonderful webinars, if there's any questions that I haven't answered, I can certainly look through the questions and then ask her to post answers so that you have all the information you need. And again, if you have questions or your student needs to navigate Pioneer Web, my staff is great about navigating the students through the system so that they get really comfortable. And I promise you that by the time the second week of classes rolls around, your students will be able to navigate Pioneer Web like they're old pros. So it's where we do all of our business. Okay. Sharon, you think we got any more questions I need to answer for these lovely people?
I think that you've covered everything that applies to your area, Janet,
Okay,
about
great.
the Bursar's office and everything about ID cards. We're going to have webinars that will specifically cover health and wellness, as well as a housing webinar. We're going to send email reminders to everybody about joining those. They're going to happen, the health and wellness is on June 30th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Sorry, there we go. Hi. The health and wellness webinar is June 30th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And the housing and dining webinar, that's going to be on July 7th at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. So again, we'll send those reminders out to everyone by email. I know there were a lot of questions on that. I also posted the websites for the Health and Counseling Center and for the housing office there in the chat. And some other information in the chat. We'll also follow up after this and we'll give you a lot of this information through an email. So you'll have the links able to access right from that email. And I don't see any other questions Janet, that apply to your area
Okay.
for tonight for Bursar or ID cards.
Great. And like I said at the beginning and throughout, feel free to call the Bursar's office. My staff's available 8 to 4:30. They're very great about answering phone calls. If you have one phone call about Bursar and then you need to talk to the ID card office, they're happy to transfer you. Send us an email. We want to answer as many questions as we can so you are as comfortable with the process as possible. So. And you'll probably see me on campus during check-in because I'm one of those lovely people that will be handing your students ID cards. So really, thank you again for joining the webinar and thank you for sending your students to DU. We're very excited to welcome this incoming class and to meet you parents and just, we're really great. You're going to be part of the DU family. So thank you. Have a great evening.